Hey Gurus, in this video series we're going to set up disaster recovery for our IBM QRadar SOAR platform. Disaster recovery is for the on-premise only SOAR platform. This enables your security team to re-establish an operational SOAR within a matter of hours with only minutes of data loss. Disaster recovery is not a high availability system. The way the IBM QRadar SOAR disaster recovery system works is by installing a second SOAR appliance and replicating the Postgres database across the two systems, as well as setting up rsync to send copies of files. All this is achieved through Ansible scripts that are pre-installed on the appliance. Before we get started setting up the disaster recovery SOAR system, a few prerequisites I'd like to mention. First off, the res admin password needs to be the same on both systems. Also, the version of the SOAR instances need to be the same. Next, the two systems should be able to communicate with each other on port 22, and the primary system should be able to communicate with the disaster recovery system over port 5432, which is used by Postgres. And lastly, make sure both systems can resolve the fully qualified domain name of each appliance. And if not, then you can manually set the DNS information of the other system in the /etc/host file on the appliances. Now we're going to walk through setting up the disaster recovery source system. So here on the screen, I've started the OVA of the SOAR platform. And first, once the OVA boots in your VMware environment, you need to set passwords for the root and res admin users. And in my demo environment, I'm only going to use DHCP, and that's fine. But if you use static IP addresses, then you'll select no, and it'll walk you through a series of prompts to set the static IP information. Now the system will reboot, and we can continue on to upgrade the system to match the SOAR version of the primary system. Looks like the SOAR disaster recovery system has booted back up. Let's go ahead and log in as res admin. And check our SOAR version. As you can see, booting from the OVA, we start out with a SOAR version of 49.0.8803. And if we go over here to our primary, you'll see we're running 49.1.52. So we need to upgrade the SOAR platform on our disaster recovery system so that the SOAR versions match. Now let's get the system upgraded to match the SOAR version of the primary system. Run ls here. You'll see that I've already uploaded the necessary files using SCP in a separate window. So let's go ahead and run the first SOAR run file, and this will install SOAR version 49.1.52 onto the system. Now the SOAR platform has been updated to version 49.1.52. Let's go ahead and also upgrade the underlying operating system to ensure that it is updated and secure. Alright, looks like the system has been updated, and as you can see, there is a note about there has been a kernel security update, which means we must reboot the system to apply the kernel update. Now that the system is back up and running, we can start the disaster recovery installation process. You may have noticed I didn't have to install the license or any users into the DR system. That's because once the disaster recovery is up and running, the licenses, organizations, cases, users, all that information from your primary system will get replicated over to the disaster recovery system. Let's move forward by setting up the SSH keys for res admin on both systems and using SSH copy ID to copy the public key to both systems. So first we will start at the primary system. Res admin at, and then the machine host name. Default location, and do not set a passphrase for this SSH key. That is mandatory to ensure that the disaster recovery system within the SOAR platform functions correctly. Now that the key has been created, we need to copy the key onto the local system. Running SSH copy ID on the local system adds that user's public key to the authorized keys file. Okay, and now we also need to copy it to the disaster recovery system. Perfect. Now we're going to do the same thing on the DR system. There we go. Now to confirm that that worked from the primary system, if we do a SSH to res admin at the host name of the disaster recovery system, we should be able to sign in without being prompted for a password. And we can confirm that we've logged in by looking at the host name, and sure enough, it's resilient-dr. We could also look at the IP address to confirm that we are on the DR system. Now that the keys are set up, let's move forward, and we're going to install the disaster recovery packages on both SOAR systems. It's as easy as doing sudo yum install resilient-dr. Do it on the disaster recovery system. We'll use the -y flag this time, which all that does is bypass the question of, are you sure you want to install? Perfect. Now we can also check the version of disaster recovery we have installed on these systems by running yum info resilient dr, and we can see that we're running version 2.10.560. Next, we need to install the SOAR optional packages repo on both systems so that we can install the lsyncd package, which is a package containing rsync. So earlier I've already copied over the SOAR optional packages file. You can get this by going out to Fix Central. We'll run sudo bash SOAR optional. Now that we have the optional repo installed, we could run this command here to list the available packages to us from that repo. So we can see we have SE Linux, LSOF, LSyncD, some SNMP, OpenVPN, rsync, screen, TCP dump. In this case, we're going to install lsyncd. So sudo yum install lsyncd. And as you can see, that will also install rsync as well. To recap, we talked a little bit about what disaster recovery is, the prerequisites needed to run disaster recovery. We set up the SSH keys for RES admin on both systems, as well as installed the resilient-dr package and the lsyncd packages. In the next video, we'll set up the res file sync user and start configuring the Ansible files. If you have any questions or comments in the meantime, feel free to comment below. Until then, see you on the next video.